Welcome to session 1 of the guidework course, and we've called it What Are Spirit Guides and Why Do We Work With Them? We've got a long old session for you in this video, but I think first of all we just want to start by saying this. We can tell you everything you need to know and guide you through it, but just like when you're learning to play a musical instrument, even if you have the most expensive, confident teacher in the world, you have the most incredible instrument to play, you have all the music books, an incredible stand to put it on, unless you actually pick the instrument up, you're never going to learn how to play it. It's exactly the same for developing a relationship with spirit people, normal spirit people, just normal spirit people, or guides. It doesn't matter which. You can read all the textbooks in the world, but unless you actually get out there and give it a go, it's just not going to happen. And just with any learning process, it takes time and patience. And really, the best way to go about this is to listen and read and do the exercises that we suggest that you do, but try to do it without expectation. The more you expect it all to be happening immediately because you've read the notes or watched the video, the more likely you are to create your own barriers, blockages and things, making it harder than it already can be. So how about we start with what is a spirit guide?
Okay, so generally spirit guides can be loved ones. They can also be spirits that you've never met. A lot of people say that spirit guides are contracted to us, and that can be true, but also spirit guides can also notice you as well from spirit realm. So it may be that you're developing spirit realm, people or guides notice that a person's developing in a certain way, and that is more attuned to the way that guide would work themselves. Another way that guides work is to go and find other guides. So you've got guides working with you, they'll go and find a specific guide to perform a specific function. So guides, generally spirits, they can be other races as well, other beings, but of course we know that if we evidence the spirit people, that we've got a much better chance of developing in that specific area.
And can spirit guides be evidenced just as normal spirit folk can be?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The best part about spirit guides is that because they have a living, working relationship with you, they can tell you things that are going to happen, and you never know, in the future, tomorrow or whatever. And if it actually happens, then that's some pretty good evidence, isn't it? I'll give you an example. I was driving on the road one day, spirit guide said to me, quick, jump on the brakes. I did. There's a horse on the road, and it was a sharp corner. I couldn't see a horse, so I jumped on the brakes. As I went around the corner, there was a horse standing in the middle of the road, and I thought, okay, that's pretty good evidence. For me, anyway.
Why do we want guides? Why do we need guides?
I think guides, each person's individual, but I think guides provide a spiritual component to people's lives. They take us out of the three-dimensional space, and we start to understand that we're consciousness, and we're visiting our physical form, and our point of origin, spirit realm or other places. But it gives us a new dynamic to our existence. That's why.
I said people need patience. How long did it take you to get such a developed relationship with your guide that you were able to hear them say to you to slam those brakes? Because you have to be realistic. That is not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not. Although guides can do that if they needed to, but it's like, I'll give you an example. Some mediums, they may get a showing from a guide. The guide performs something around them. But it takes 7 years till that guide actually comes through again. Realistic expectations are that you don't know how really close you are to your guide. That's the first thing. One of the guides that we work with said meeting a guide is like sitting in a seat. Some people need to sit in 500 seats, so 500 is 500 days, because that means you're meditating 500 times. Some people need to sit 10,000 times, and they know what is required for them to come to you and work with you clearly, succinctly, and develop the capacity that they require to work with you. This is a big area, because let's say that this is your potential across your whole life. This is your potential. And when the guide comes in, they're working within this space here. This is the energy. This is your development. But of course, you've still got all of this to go. And so it's an actual journey. But initially, that contact that's required for you to meet your guide can take a long time, and it needs to be evidenced, and guides can do that in really good ways, especially if they've been in the physical and they lived a life. They can evidence themselves by giving you information about where they lived, the family name, who they were married to, and you could evidence that by going and getting the records and seeing that information as well.
We get asked a lot, don't we, about people working in with clairvoyant mediumship. Why is it so easy for some people to receive clairvoyant messages for spirit people, loved ones, and yet it's taking them so long to get a proper true connection to their guide? They would have thought it would be easier, that the guide would be there easier than the normal spirit person.
So when a spirit person is wanting to connect to a medium, the mediums are in a space where they're knowing that spirits are going to come. And initially, when people have passed over, they may not know how to connect to a medium. That's the first thing. So what will happen is that there could be other spirits working with those spirits to help them contact the medium and give information through. But with guides, it's much more of a difficult situation for the very reason that the guide sees the end goal. And so back to this again, if this is the end goal, it could be that to get you to that point, the guide has to take you through various types of educational processes and experiences. Whereas the spirit person that's coming through is just there for a few minutes and then leaves. They've no responsibility towards you whatsoever. Whereas a guide who takes upon that role, that mantle of being your guide, that mentorship role, what happens is they need to understand all of the nuances of you, psychological, physiological, physical, how you breathe, many, many things. And if they're going to take you into, say, healing and deep trance work, these sorts of things, they need to understand how to put you into an altered state, into trance states, how to get you out of the way, how to bring you back safely, and how to get you back into your normal state. So there's many, many things that need to take place. Guides also, they're not just there for giving you information, but they're there to be your gatekeepers. And so gatekeepers are a little bit different to guides, but they can be the same. But generally, gatekeepers are just like your front fence that's there for a specific reason. It's just so anybody doesn't walk in and out. So gatekeepers are the same, but generally gatekeepers sit in the background. They can come forward. It's not always a hard and fast rule, but there's a little bit of a difference between them. So we can have a gatekeeper. They're like the manager of the team, and then the other guides are part of that process, that team. And then on the outside of that are other spirit people that could be working with the guides and gatekeeper as well.
Yeah, I mean, we work with gatekeeper guides, and I know the gatekeeper guide that works with me was around in the background observing and watching for a good number of years before they started to slowly come closer.
I've had the gatekeeper probably was one of the last spirits to come through. Others came through, that were guides, giving information, managing different things. The gatekeeper didn't see any real reason to come forward, only until you move into, once again, the progression path. It may be here is when the gatekeeper is required to actually manifest themselves to you. They're still here. They're still working in these areas. There's no reason for them to manifest that experience for you.
I think we often find, don't we, that people starting out on their mediumship journeys, they generally have loved ones acting as guardians or guides around them. I know my granddad was around me for many years, and he didn't leave when the new guide came forward. He just stepped to the side, so he was always still there. And other people think that guides just come and go, and if you've got one, the other ones are just completely AWOL. It's quite often not the case either, is it? They're back, but they're not completely gone.
Yeah, and it's like a team, a football team. Not everybody's on the field playing. There's the coach, and then there's the guys that do all the support work. There's the bus driver. There's this, there's that. Not everybody's out the front, and there's a lot of support mechanisms for mediums as well.
So I guess it really comes down to, why do you really want to be working with a guide? And if you do, what sort of considerations, ethical considerations, do you need to be thinking about and be aware of before you start entering into that arena?
Actually, yes. The thing is, people say, look, I want a guide. Okay, well, what for? That's the first thing, is why do you want a guide? The other one is what sort of personality do you think your guide should have? And I would suggest at this point that you are writing down some of the answers to the questions that we're asking you, because until you've actually sat back and thought about it, quite often the guides don't come forward. They're going, well, you don't even know what sort of guide that you want anyway, so I'm not sure why we should come forward. The other one is where do you see your relationship with your guide developing? What sort of a relationship is that? Are they there just to give you car parks, or are they there to work with you to do healing? What are some of the things that you're passionate about? And so if you can write those things down, even in journal them, then of course you can start to get some sort of an idea about how a guide could work with you as well. So next thing is evidence. How would a guide evidence themselves to you? What do you see as evidence? I talked before about driving along and jumping on the brakes for the horse, but that was good evidence for me. But I've had a lot of evidence, many levels of evidence from specific guides, giving dates of birth, their children's names, all these sorts of things, where they live, their street address, and then going and researching that information and finding out that those guides actually were real and existed. So it's not up to me or Syann to determine what is evidence for you. It's up to you to work out what is evidence for you. An example, you believe that you're going to be working in a specific area, and it's, it can be quite a difficult area. We don't know what that is. Now, is enough evidence that you just see a flashing light and then you go, oh, okay, that's my guide, I'm going to go and jump into this right now? Or do you think, no, maybe I need to think about this a bit more carefully because I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I don't know what's inside that range of experience here, so I need to be more careful with the way that I'm going to evidence the guide. It's basically to your benefit to evidence the guide as well. What about ethics? This is a big one. What sort of ethics should your guide have? Is it okay for them to play practical jokes on you? Is it okay for them to stretch the truth or to even lie to you? People go, well, guides would never lie, but guess what? Guides were spirits, and spirits were humans, and the capacity for spirits to have a bit of a joke sometimes is there, but definitely it's never really appropriate ever for a guide to be lying. And so you need to make sure that your guide is aware that you ethically you would not want that from a guide. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of more questions. What have you done to create contact with a guide? These are some things that you can think about. What did you do to create contact with a guide?
Many hours of meditation.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we will talk about the practicalities of meeting your guide shortly.
Yep.
But yeah, I went through some very specific protocols, I suppose. When meeting my guide, I set up little rituals without really realizing what I was doing. And again, we'll go into this, but when I look back on those days, which were many years ago now, I can see quite a structured path to what I was doing without even really realizing I was doing it.
I think that's something that I've come to realise over the years, that I didn't realise how much structure there was. But when you actually document everything, and I'm a big one for journaling and documenting, when I look back over it, I can see all through the thousands of experiences that there was actually a building of that process.
Yeah.
But I never saw it, because when you're in the middle of it, you don't see it. So the next question is, you know, everybody wants their guide. I want my guide. We get this all the time from people. But how authentic have you actually been in your attempt to find your gatekeeper or your guide? The question, would you be prepared to sit every day for 7 years? Are you that committed? That's the question. Some people have to do that.
Yeah.
Other people, they just sit for a few months. It happens. Other people don't do anything and they've got guide contact. It's all about you and what you need to do. And so from my perspective, I was thinking, you know what, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to sit every day. I don't care if I have to sit for the rest of my life. I'm going to do this. And it just so happened that within a few years, that the spirit people that were watching me sit and meditate started to come through and give evidence for themselves as guides, and I really appreciated that as well. Is the next thing, how much time are you willing to spend to work towards finding a guide as well? Another one that quite often people don't understand is how much of your mind is part of your work with your guides. What do you think about that? How much of your mind? It's a very difficult question to actually answer.
It is really difficult. And I think until you've established that very genuine connection to them, you won't understand how much of your mind was part of the process in the beginning. It's kind of like a hindsight thing. Once you've got that really true, genuine connection, then you're able to look back and you can tell when it wasn't there. But until you've got that, you don't have the compare and contrast.
There's a very good document. It's spoken by Silver Birch about problems of communication. Look it up, because it talks about often when the guide's coming through to speak, they are carried away by the mind of the medium. And often the medium will say 4 or 5 words that the guide is wanting to say through them, and then add in their own word. And if you read that document, Problems of Communication, it's very, very clear about problems that spirit people face in trying to come through and speak through the living as well. Because guides do come and give advice to other people. They come and support other people. They're very good like that. Couple of other questions. Will you allow deep trance? Personally, for me, it was a no. That was the line that I drew. I wanted them to work with me until something happened and I realized that I needed to work in trance states. But I think that they took me up to that point as well. If you'd have asked me back here, I was just saying no, 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 no. But once I got here, I was thinking, well, okay, I know them quite well. I'll see how I go. And if things work out, they do, that would be great. And the other one is, do we need a team?
Do we need more than one guide?
Yes. Do I need 10 spirit people around me? And it depends on what sort of things that you're going to be doing. If you're going to be a physical medium, you may have quite a large team around you. One to manage ectoplasm, one to manage physical furniture, one to manage photons and light, one to manage the sitters, one to give guidance.
There's probably some sort of scientist type character
in the background.
Scientists
in the background for sure.
I think I think it's quite common that physical mediums in particular, deep trance mediums, they have one or two regular communicators, but they will have an entire team working in the background that very rarely come forward. They're often referenced, aren't they? That they're there, but you may not ever hear from them.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what the ethics of a guide and guides themselves. Who are guides? What are they? Gatekeepers, spirits, these sorts of things. So if we start off and now say to you, okay, so you've decided that you want to sit for a guide, and you're going to do some meditation to do that. And part of this course is meditation as well, but you would have been meditating anyway to get into this course, because that was part of some of the previous courses. The thing is that do we need to make an appointment with guides, and do we have to set an intention?
So we're talking about the practicalities now.
This is a practical thing about guides.
Wow, where do we start? Okay, well, this is where we have kind of realized what we were doing back in the beginning, isn't it? And we've tried to structure that for you to get the benefit of everything that took us probably ages to work out. So it starts off, I guess, with your intent, doesn't it? Yeah, your intent that's backed up by your ethical decisions that you've made, and the reason why you want to meet your guide is then your intent to meet your guide. And so if you're not feeling particularly committed, they'll know that, and they'll wait till that changes. So I think you have to be really driven to do this. Like Paul said, hopefully you are meditating regularly. Meeting your guide, I found it easier if I separated the two processes in my mind. So I had meditation to be still, and then I had meditation specifically for my guide to come to me. Meditation to be still, because in the beginning of my meditations, I would find it hard. I'd find it really very difficult. And so I'd need to be trying various different techniques and whatever to get there. But the guide appointments, as I would call them in my mind, were very, very specific.
That's right. I was the same. I would make an appointment for 15 to 20 minutes every day at the same time. And the best part about the shorter appointments were I always did them. Whereas if it's 40 minutes and you're running late for something, and I won't do it, but 15, 20 minutes, you know that you can do it. And you do it all the time. It becomes a habit after a while, and it's really good. So the thing is that we need to discuss where would you sit.
I really honestly feel that having a designated space, if you can, is so very, very helpful. I mentioned earlier on that I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't realize the impact of what I was doing at the time. But by sitting in the same space every day at pretty much more or less the same time, doing the same A, B, C, D, and E that we'll go through in a minute, I was alerting the guide that I was ready. I was ready to meet them. And so for me, I used to sit in the same spot of my sofa, which would be a different end of the sofa I would sit normally. I'll just add, I would never normally sit that end of the sofa. I would think about that all day, get the kids to bed, get the dinner on, clear the dishes up. I've got nothing else to do for the evening. My agenda is now clear. Everybody, the house is nice and quiet. I would go around, shut the curtains, I would shut the door. It's just me, the cat's out, no disturbances.
Phones off.
I unplugged the landline. Of course, all the postman stuff had already happened earlier on in the morning. No reason to be disturbed. I would then play the same piece of music every night, always the same.
Yeah.
And it was music that took me a while to find, but it was just gentle, relaxing music. It wasn't anything particularly special. Didn't have words. Well, it did have kind of gobbledygook words, but not words that, you know, kind of sounds.
Yeah, because the thing is that if you've got
Nothing
a song
that
that's the words are in English and your
Yeah.
mind can sing along with it,
Yeah.
then next thing you know, you're singing the song.
Yeah.
But if it's just music and the music is, say, Tibetan music and you don't know the words,
Yeah.
you're just listening to it, but
Yeah.
you're actually listening to all the different nuances
The
of the
different
song,
sounds within
the
the
beat,
song.
all the sounds, whether it's flute, whatever it is, and that makes a big difference. But yeah, you really do need to have a specific place.
Yeah.
I had the same chair, the same music every day. I never changed a thing for about. Sometimes I would go for a year and just play the same music. What I would be doing is, and we'll be talking about this a lot more as we go through the course, is looking into the fabric of my energy to see if I could feel the difference. And that's something that we need to talk about in another session.
Yeah.
Is this a permanent space? I made it a permanent space. Some people don't have a permanent space.
Yeah, I didn't have that permanent space, but I created the same space, the same environmental conditions, the same lighting, the same sounds, the same intent, the same time. What about clothes?
Yeah, well, this is what I was about to say. What sort of clothes will you wear? A medium once said to me, look, just if you're going to do it, always wear the same clothes. You know, you only put them on for that and then take them off. Energy is residual, it sticks with clothes. So I had a pair of nice, comfortable pants and a t-shirt and used to just wear that every day, you know, when sitting, and then get changed out of that and get changed into it when I was going to go. That was an induction method, I found out, that was good for the guide. The guide goes, oh, he's getting ready to sit.
Yeah, in the same way that you would sit in the same spot and have the same music, same clothes. And you think about the clothes thing. Think about shaman clothes. They would have, you know, specific items. They'd have masks, you know, all sorts of clothing items that they too would use specifically for that and nothing else.
All right, and so can I wear a crystal? Look, if you want to wear a crystal, wear a crystal. If you want to like do a guide meditation and get a specific symbol embedded into the crystal with your consciousness, and then you use that as an induction method to, you know, so when you put that on, then the guide also knows. You put the clothes, you put that on, the guide knows. So you've got a staged implementation process for the guide to see that you are going to sit. That's called an induction method as well. Make sure that you don't have a strong perfume, underarm, whatever on, because if guides come in or a spirit comes in and they have a specific fragrance with them, you're not going to smell it because of the other smell or the incense burning in the room. Quite often that is
the worst thing.
It's just not a good thing to do.
But we'd also recommend avoid high caffeine drinks before meditating anyway, but especially before trying to connect to guides. Same as way we would also discourage drinking alcohol before meditating for spirit contact, regardless of who you're trying to contact.
All right, so that's the end of that section. And so the next section is now going to be frequently asked questions. And these are the questions we get all the time. And we thought we'd just address them all straight up and then people can, you know, have that information. I am reading them, so that's fine. So what type of guides are there?
Goodness, well, are you talking about human guides?
Can be anything.
Any guides, yeah. I mean, this course is really aimed at spirit guides, but that's not to say that guides just have to be from spirit realm, although we are predominantly addressing that in this session. What humans can be guides? Well, anyone can be a guide, but we tend to find that they are wiser, they're of how would you describe it?
I guess there are levels to guides as well, just as there's levels to spirit realm, levels to frequency, levels to everything. the guide materializes or manifests around you as required.
And that changes as you develop, like we've mentioned before.
That's right. So the guide that you have in the beginning may not be the same guide you have 10 years later.
Yeah.
But you can have different beings, different races, different interdimensional entities. But always the question comes back to, how do they evidence themselves? What is the purpose that they serve in working with you?
Yeah.
And are they able to produce what they say they can? Now, we do need to take into consideration that things happen and that a guide will say that they're going to do something, and then it doesn't actually happen the way that they said it would, but at least they tried. But if you've got conversation with them, the ability to converse with them, then you can talk to them about, well, okay, you said this, but this happened, what happened? They can then talk to you about that. They're learning as well. They're learning about you, you're learning about them. It's a relationship.
Having said that, I guess though, we need to say, if you have a guide promising you the world on a frequent daily basis,
yeah, that's a problem,
and the world isn't materializing for you, then really you ought to be questioning what is actually going on.
Well, that leads into the next question: should a guide be famous? Do I need somebody who's famous? I steer away from guides that turn up and say, "Hey, I'm this person," and I mean, there's so much information about them all over the internet. There's no way that you could have known whether you read that information 5 years ago, and now suddenly the spirit turns up and they're not really who they are, say they are anyway. And they've now got all this information and they're telling you, they're evidencing themselves to you, and you can just read it on the internet and you go, well, I'm not sure.
I think there'd have to be some very unique evidence that they gave to accept that you really do have the famous person, whoever they may be, with you.
It's up to, look, in the end, it's up to you what you do. Okay, what you choose to accept, nobody can tell you. It's up to you. I would suggest though that you should never ever summon anything. Never summon a guide.
Yeah.
Because if anything turns up really quickly, you've not evidenced it, and then of course you've got no way to know whether you can get rid of them either.
And this is where we remind ourselves that, you know, spirits were people. So if you say, look, I've heard about this spirit guide called, I don't know, whoever, Joe Bloggs, I want Joe Bloggs to turn up to be my spirit guide, and guess what? The spirit turns up and says, hey, I'm Joe Bloggs. Really?
You've got no way to evidence whether it is. Like, that's the thing.
You need to be careful.
What about, can we have angels as guides? Absolutely. Of course you can. They're going to evidence themselves completely differently, and they may not be there all the time, but it's up to you. Now, I don't know what your belief system is. It's actually none of my business. So the thing is, it's up to you to determine what type of guides you want. Now, if you've got an angel, you're probably going to be a real problem asking for a car park, all right? They'll get one, but the thing is that really what you want an angel for? Isn't more an angel based around protection, all right? Well, then you need to ask yourself, why do you need to be protected? Protected from what? And this comes into having to do some shadow work, find out what is it that you think that you need to be protected from. You need to be talking to other guides about that. And we'll be dealing with protection in this course as well. All right. What about a lot of people have Native American Indian guides, don't they? What we found is that generally that's a collective consciousness, and that some people would call it a social memory complex. That means that that type of consciousness can then manifest around you and provide you with evidence in ways that's personal to you. A lot of people have, it provides a spiritual component to your life as a human being as well. You could have a Tibetan monk. It's really irrelevant. It's more about what is possible in the end. Do guides have real names, or do they just make them up?
I think it can be both, but I know it to be both.
Why would a guide, okay, here's the question. So a guide says that their name is Frank, okay? But the medium knows that that's not the name of the guide because the guide's told you their real name. So someone then comes to you and says, oh, your guide, Frank, told me to tell you this, this, and this. And the first question you should say to that person is, what's Frank's real name?
Yeah.
Because if it's really your guide trying to connect to you, the guide will tell that person their real name.
Yeah.
And that is evidence for you that the guide
has
actually spoken to someone. I've had it happen to me.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it. Yeah. Should we tell other people our guides' names? What do you think? No.
Because it takes away that evidential. Yeah. I think when we were first working together hundreds of years ago, really? I didn't know the name of one of your guides, and they came to me, and I heard the name was la la la, and I was like, that's interesting. I relayed it back to you. Yeah. There it was. If you told me that name,
I don't. I'm sort of like, no, I'm just not going to say anything. I mean, yes, Frank, the word Frank, that's great, but that's not the guide's name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be more. And guides, they understand that, and so if it hasn't come up with them, and you do have a good communication process with them, you can ask them about that.
What about, do other people's guides come to us?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best part is that you can then contact that medium and say, your guide came to me and said this and that, and if that medium's genuine, they can then contact the guide and say, where were you yesterday at 6 o'clock in the afternoon? And the guide will say, oh, I went and spoke to Paul and Syann. Yeah. That's good evidence for you, good evidence for that medium as well. I've seen it happen a few times between myself and other mediums. And if it's no, it's no. So if a spirit comes to you and says, oh, my name's such and such, I work with that medium, and then you say to that medium, oh, can you ask your guide what they were doing? And they say they didn't, then you know that wasn't a specific guide, and you learn from that. Yeah. Very, very important that you learn from all of this. Yeah. Be prepared to make a lot of mistakes. That's very, very important.
Always ask for evidence. If you have somebody else's guide come to you to pass a message on to that person, first thing I'd be asking is, well, hang on, why haven't they just gone to their person? Why have they come to me to pass the message on? And so I'd be saying, okay, well, you need to give me something that I can prove who you are to that person. Otherwise, it's all a bit silly.
Do you reckon there's tricky spirits?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Some of them like to play pranks. Others pretend to be extraterrestrials. Yeah. The other thing.
Remember, spirits, whether they're guides or just normal spirit folk, used to be human and have their personality. If they were jokers in real life, then they're probably jokers in spirit too. Nothing changes.
Do guides give symbols?
Yeah, they give symbols.
They do give symbols, which is really important. Butterflies, dragonflies, could be anything, but they can give you a symbol, and then if you meditate on that symbol, it gives you a connection through to that guide as well. What is a totem? Do you know what a totem? Have you heard of that before?
I have.
You have?
I have heard of totems.
So often people will receive a totem, and it's not something physical. It could be an animal totem. So if you're traveling, you're doing journeying, shamanic journeying, you're moving into the different realms, and a fox comes up to you, it can become a totem for you. And a guide will often present themselves in the form of an animal in the beginning, and because that's much more acceptable. And then, of course, as you develop a relationship, it'll then turn out to be a human or another being or whatever. No one can tell you what that will be. It's up to you to work that out and what's going on. Here's the other question. We get this one a lot. Do we need portals for guides to come to us? That's a really good question. I would suggest that there's places that are probably more opportunistic for guides to come through than other places. Standing in a telephone box in the middle of the city probably isn't the best place to hear from your guide, but you probably got a better chance of going back to where you were sitting this morning to hear from your guide as well. So I would suggest, if you want to call that a portal, that's great, but always look for the best possible place to contact your guide. Can I make a crystal grid for channeling energy for my guide to work with? Absolutely you can, and this is a Reiki type principle process where you use different crystals to create a grid. You set the intention, And in the intention, you can talk to your guide and say, listen, this grid is for me and you, and when you want to work with me, you can move through the crystals to come to me. If I need you, I can move through the crystals to go to you. So that works quite well. It's also it's a Reiki thing that people do. They provide healing grids. They put their names of people that need to be healed on the grid, and energy from the grid flows to people for healing as well. The last few questions are basically, what do I have to do with my mind while I'm trying to contact my guide? We'll be talking about that in a few sessions' time in regards to meditation. But generally, people have a lot of problems with their minds when they first start. After a while, though, the stillness does come, and you'll find it a lot easier as the energy shifts around you. You need to learn about breathing and a few other things as well. Can we create a subconscious spirit guide? Yes, this is becoming very common. A lot of people are tuplers, I believe that they're called, egregore as well, created by a group of people.
And they can become so powerful.
Yeah, they can. But I would suggest that in the beginning that you don't be doing this, that you look for the guides that are spirit guides that have access to a lot more information than subconscious spirits. Does me telling my mind is still actually working? I'm not sure that that actually is a proper question at all, so we'll just leave that one.
I think that question related to the person when they were kind of fighting with their mind for stillness.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah, they're trying to work out the difference between their mind and the guide.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been talking for a while now, and we've managed to get through all of this. This was the first session. Go through to the next video, and we'll be talking about a different subject again. And I think the next one's understanding your energy. And so that's a big area as well. And I'm sure that there'll be a couple of supporting videos for that. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next session.